Welcome back to Retro Laws. Today, we're reliving a masterpiece that was simply born decades too early. It understood things about tension, player psychology, and corporate greed that modern games are only just starting to figure out today. Chapter 1: The Bloody Canvas. To truly understand this bizarre piece of software, we must travel back to the late 1990s. The video game industry was going through a massive, explosive shift into 3 dimensions. Survival horror was the absolute king of the market. Sony's PlayStation was dominated by games featuring fixed camera angles, dark corridors, and clunky tank controls. Players everywhere were falling in love with the slow, creeping dread of exploring ruined space. Every single studio wanted to copy this incredibly profitable formula. They all used the exact same tricks over and over again. They gave you very little ammo, locked doors with strange emblems, and jumped monsters through glass windows. The genre was quickly becoming formulaic, predictable, and visually repetitive. Enter a Japanese game designer named Shinya Nishigaki. He was a man who marched to the beat of his own drum. He did not care about doing what was safe or popular. He ran a studio named Climax Graphics, which had just created a launch title for the brand new Sega Dreamcast called Blue Stinger. That game was a strange, hyper-colorful action horror title set on a tropical island. It featured mutant monsters, high-tech weapons, and a highly experimental moving camera system. It was messy and weird, but it showed that Nishigaki was bored by normal horror conventions. He did not want to make something dark and brooding like his competitors. He loved the campy, over-the-top energy of American exploitation cinema and cheap drive-in theater movies. Blue Stinger sold reasonably well, but Nishigaki felt limited by the project. He wanted to push his creative vision much further into the realm of total absurdity. He decided to change the name of his entire development studio from Climax Graphics to Crazy Games. This was not just a simple corporate rebrand. It was a loud, proud statement of artistic intent. He wanted his team to make games that felt genuinely unhinged and wild. They were going to use the power of Sega's final console to create something the world had never seen. The Dreamcast was the perfect home for this kind of experimental art. It was a system defined by arcade energy, strange accessories, and weird creative risks. It possessed a powerful internal graphics processor that could push bright, clean textures and smooth polygon models. Nishigaki looked at this hardware and saw a blank canvas for a new type of horror. He wanted to design a game that was not about surviving an actual monster apocalypse. Instead, he wanted to make a game about surviving the concept of horror itself. He wanted to build an interactive theme park dedicated to cheap scares, sudden traps, and corporate greed. The story he came up with was incredibly simple on the surface, mimicking the plot of a low-budget teenager slasher film. A mysterious, wealthy billionaire named Michael Reynolds builds a massive high-tech amusement park called Illbleed. He claims it cost millions of dollars to construct. He issues a wild public challenge to the youth of the world. If anyone can walk through all 6 attractions in the park and survive to the very end, he will give them a cash prize of $6 million. It sounds like an easy, fun game for a group of brave high school kids. A young girl named Eriko Christie and her 3 best friends receive complimentary tickets to the grand opening. Eriko is the president of her school's horror movie fan club. She's famous among her peers for being completely impossible to scare. She thinks the park sounds cheap, silly, and fake. She refuses to go, warning her friends that it is probably a stupid waste of time. Her 3 friends, driven by the desire for fame and easy money, ignore her warnings and head out to the park anyway. Days pass by and the friends do not return home. They vanish completely without leaving a single trace behind. Realizing something is terribly wrong, Eriko travels to the glowing neon gates of Illbleed alone to rescue them. When she steps through the turnstiles, she discovers a terrifying truth. The park is not filled with cheap rubber masks or plastic skeletons. The traps are completely real, designed to cut, burn, blast, and terrify visitors to actual death. Michael Reynolds has created a playground of absolute sadism for his own twisted amusement. This narrative setup allowed Nishigaki to completely bypass the realistic tone of games like Resident Evil. He did not need to explain why a giant mutant was wandering around a hallway. The explanation was simple. It was an expensive asset built by a crazy theme park company. This choice gave the developers total creative freedom to change the rules of the environment whenever they wanted. One level could be a dark forest filled with killer trees, while the next could be a bright toy factory. The team at Crazy Games spent months designing these distinct visual spaces. They utilized the Dreamcast hardware to create highly detailed, colorful environments that look distinct from anything else on store shelves. They rejected the muddy gray color schemes that defined the era. They embraced loud purples, neon greens, and deep, vibrant blood reds. The development process was filled with intense creative energy, but it was also plagued by massive pressure. The Dreamcast was rapidly losing ground to Sony's powerhouse PlayStation 2 console in the marketplace. Sega was running out of money, and the future of the entire platform was deeply uncertain. Nishigaki knew he was running out of time to leave his mark on the industry. He pushed his team to make the game as mechanically complex as possible. They created an intricate system that tracked the physical status of the player character down to the smallest detail. This was not a standard health bar system. The game monitored your pulse, your adrenaline output, your blood loss, and your overall stamina. If your heart rate rose too high from a jump scare, your character would faint or die on the spot. If you stepped on a spike, you would begin to bleed out continuously as you walked through the levels. You had to physically manage your fear using items like heart medication and smelling salts. This mechanical depth completely changed how the game had to be played. You could not simply rush forward into a room and hope for the best. You had to slowly creep through the environments, watching your character's physiological readouts like a trained doctor. When early previews of the game started appearing in gaming magazines throughout late 2000, journalists were completely baffled by it. The screenshots looked bright, chaotic, and incredibly violent. The characters looked like strange, stylized dolls with oversized eyes and exaggerated expressions. The text descriptions of the gameplay sounded incredibly confusing to people used to classic item hunts. The Western publisher, AIA, did not know how to market such a bizarre Japanese creation to an American audience. They leaned heavily into the shock value, highlighting the blood and the campy nature of the writing. They treated it like a strange joke rather than a serious, advanced piece of game design. When the game finally launched in the spring of 2001, it was met with immediate, widespread confusion from critics and players alike. The game reviews were wildly split across the board. Some writers praised its incredible originality and bold design choices. Others absolutely hated it, calling it frustrating, ugly, and impossible to play. They did not understand why the combat felt so strange, or why the traps seemed to hit them out of nowhere. The game required a level of extreme patience and careful observation that many people were simply not willing to give it at the time. Furthermore, the Sega Dreamcast was officially cancelled by Sega just 1 month before the game released in North America. The console was dead, stores were clearing out their stock, and the audience for new Dreamcast games was shrinking by the day. Illbleed was dead on arrival from a commercial standpoint. It sank to the bottom of the retail bargain bins almost instantly. It became a forgotten relic of a bygone console war, a strange title buried in the back pages of gaming history. Yet this commercial failure does not take away from the sheer brilliance of what Nishigaki and his team achieved. They managed to create a game that felt like a living, breathing B-movie nightmare. They built a world that was simultaneously hilarious, deeply unsettling, and mechanically profound. Every single texture, every line of intentionally terrible voice acting, and every hidden trap was placed with deliberate artistic purpose. Nishigaki had painted a bloody, beautiful masterpiece on a canvas that was rapidly burning down around him. He refused to compromise his bizarre vision for the sake of mass-market appeal. Because of that stubborn bravery, Illbleed stands today as a monument to the absolute peak of Dreamcast-era creativity. It remains a shining example of what happens when a developer is given the freedom to be truly, wonderfully crazy. Chapter 2: Anatomy of Fear. Standard survival horror games usually keep their mechanical rules very simple for the player. You possess a health bar that slowly changes color when a monster hits you. You find a green plant or a first aid kit to heal your wounds. This simple system keeps your attention focused entirely on the monsters in front of you. The developers of Illbleed completely rejected this traditional approach to video game health systems. Shinya Nishigaki wanted to simulate the actual physical biology of human terror inside a computer game. He built an interface that looks more like a hospital medical dashboard than a game. When you look at the bottom of the TV screen, you see 4 distinct meters. These meters track the constant physical condition of your selected teenager in real time. The first and most important meter measures your actual heart rate in beats per minute. A normal human heart beats around 60 to 80 times during a regular, peaceful minute. In this twisted amusement park, a sudden jump scare can push your pulse past 200. If your heart beats too fast for too long, your character suffers a fatal heart attack. The second meter on your screen measures your internal adrenaline levels at all times. Adrenaline is a powerful chemical your body produces naturally whenever you feel extreme physical danger. In this specific game, adrenaline acts like a magical shield and an advanced radar system. You desperately need this chemical to detect the hidden dangers waiting inside the dark rooms. The third meter tracks how much blood you are losing in cubic centimeters every second. If a hidden spike cuts your leg, your character begins leaking blood onto the cold floor. The faster your heart beats, the faster your blood pours out of your digital body. The final meter represents your general stamina, which acts like a classic video game health bar. If any of these 4 distinct meters fail completely, your character dies a highly painful death. This mechanical depth completely transforms the way you move through the virtual space of the game. To navigate these trap-filled rooms safely, the game provides you with a very special tool. It is called the Horror Monitor, and it functions like a pair of high-tech goggles. When you activate these virtual goggles, your entire television screen shifts into a bright green tint. You cannot walk quickly while wearing these goggles, which slows down your exploration of the rooms. At the top of the green screen, you see 4 different sensory meters flashing constantly. These meters represent your character's eyes, ears, nose, and a mysterious supernatural 6th sense. As you walk toward a dark hallway corner, these sensory meters will begin to bounce wildly. A glowing yellow ring will suddenly appear on a specific item in the environment. It could be a wooden crate, a strange painting, or a simple plastic vending machine. The game is warning you that a deadly trap is waiting to spring right there. Once you spot the hidden danger, you have a very difficult choice to make. You can spend some of your valuable adrenaline points to mark the glowing spot safely. Marking the spot will disarm the trap before it can explode and hurt your character. However, you only possess a very limited amount of adrenaline in your body at once. If you waste your chemical supply on harmless objects, you will become completely blind to danger. The park designers love to play cruel psychological tricks on the player using this system. They will place 10 identical items along a single, long, narrow wooden hallway. 9 of those items are completely safe and will do absolutely nothing to your character. Only one of those items holds a deadly explosion that will burn your character's face. If you guess incorrectly, you waste your limited adrenaline or trigger the real trap manually. This creates a state of pure, exhausting paranoia as you play through the levels. You stop looking at the cool graphics or the creepy monster models in the rooms. Your eyes become completely glued to the flashing colored meters at the top of the screen. You begin to fear the very architecture of the digital rooms you're exploring. A simple wooden bench or an open doorway becomes a terrifying mental puzzle to solve. Traps are only half of the mechanical nightmare you must endure inside the amusement park. Eventually, you will fail to disarm a trap or step into a mandatory story fight. When this happens, the entire screen flashes red and a loud siren begins to wail. You are instantly pulled away into the game's highly bizarre real-time combat dimension. The game stops being a slow exploration puzzle and becomes a strange, stressful fighting arena. A glowing red boundary line appears around the edges of the room like a boxing ring. You cannot run away past this glowing line unless you call a special rescue helicopter. To call the helicopter, you must stand on a specific square and wait for the timer. The monsters you fight do not behave like the enemies in other survival horror games. They are incredibly fast, completely erratic, and love to jump out from the dark shadows. Your chosen teenager moves with a heavy, slow weight that feels very clunky at first. You wield close-range weapons like rusty metal pipes, heavy fire axes, or noisy portable flamethrowers. Every single swing of your weapon drains your stamina meter and raises your heart rate. If you miss your target enemy, you leave yourself completely open to a brutal counterattack. The enemies will slash at your chest, causing your bleeding meter to rise instantly. Now you are locked in a room with a monster while losing blood very rapidly. You must balance attacking the creature with managing your rapid pounding pulse at the same time. If your pulse gets too high during a fight, you must stop moving completely to breathe. Standing still leaves you completely defenseless against the monsters that are clawing at your face. This combat system was heavily criticized by mainstream game reviewers when the game launched. They thought the controls felt unresponsive, clunky, and poorly coded compared to smooth action games. They missed the entire artistic point of why the combat was designed to feel so heavy. Shinya Nishigaki did not want the player to feel like a powerful, cool action hero. He wanted you to feel the panic of a clumsy teenager fighting for their life. Every swing of a weapon should feel exhausting, scary, and dangerous to your physical body. If your character succumbs to their wounds, the game does not simply show a screen. Instead, your broken body is taken to the park's internal emergency room hospital. You are greeted by an eerie, pale doctor who offers expensive surgeries to fix you. You can buy artificial organs, extra blood bags, or advanced heart pacemakers for your character. These medical operations cost a massive amount of cash from your potential final prize money. If you spend all your money on surgeries, you fail the billionaire's ultimate challenge. This economy creates a beautiful risk system that connects the gameplay directly to the story. Every mistake you make literally costs you millions of dollars of fake in-game prize money. You can also rescue your 3 missing friends as you complete the different park attractions. Each rescued friend becomes a playable character with their own unique physiological stats and attributes. For example, a big athletic friend might possess high stamina but a very weak heart. A smaller friend might have tons of natural adrenaline but lose blood much faster. You must carefully choose the right teenager for each specific attraction in the park. This adds a layer of deep tactical strategy that was completely absent from other horror titles. You are not just managing ammo, you are managing a team of human bodies. You become a manager of physical torment, trying to keep these teenagers breathing until the end. The sound design enhances this mechanical tension by using your TV speakers very effectively. When your heart rate rises, a loud, heavy thumping sound fills your living room. The controller in your hands vibrates violently in time with the digital heartbeats on screen. This physical vibration transfers the panic of the character directly into your own human hands. Your own real heart rate begins to rise as you listen to the constant sound. This interactive loop proves that Illbleed understood something profound about the true nature of fear. True terror does not come from looking at an ugly monster model made of polygons. True terror comes from the painful anticipation of danger when you know your body is weak. It turns the entire environment against you, making every wall and object a potential weapon. Modern independent horror games use these exact psychological tension tricks to scare players today. Games about escaping traps or managing resources in real time owe a massive debt to this title. The team at Crazy Games built a mechanical masterpiece that standard critics were not ready for. They looked past the simple action design of their era to build something truly timeless. It remains one of the most mechanically daring experiments in the history of interactive horror. Chapter 3: A Twisted Walk in the Park. When you walk through the glowing entrance of Illbleed, the entire structural design of survival horror changes. Standard scary video games usually stick to one solid, unchanging environment for their whole duration. They want you to feel trapped in a single castle, city, or spaceship. Shinya Nishigaki decided to build his game like a cinematic horror movie anthology box set. Every single stage in the park operates as a distinct, self-contained interactive theater house. The game calls these levels movies, and each one parodies a different style of horror film. The visual transitions between these spaces feel incredibly jarring, wild, and completely unexpected. You do not move through realistic hallways that naturally connect these bizarre world spaces together. Instead, you step through standard cinema doors and enter completely separate physical realities. The artistic style changes instantly from bright, colorful toy boxes to dark, muddy forests. This structure allows the creative team to play with different cinematic tones and styles. They poke fun at low-budget monster flicks, classic slasher movies, and expensive summer blockbusters. The very first attraction you are forced to enter is called the Home Run of Death. This stage sets the tone for the absolute madness that defines the entire game. The environment looks like a twisted, burning summer camp dedicated entirely to teenage baseball players. The visual aesthetic feels like a direct parody of cheap slashers from the late 80s. You must walk through wooden cabins, muddy batting cages, and dark underground tunnels. The main antagonist of this burning park attraction is a man named Gale Banbalow. He was a regular camp owner who was horribly burned in a tragic fire. He blames the local teenagers for the death of his beloved young son. Now, he wanders the smoky grounds carrying a massive, loud industrial flamethrower weapon. As you explore, you encounter bizarre monsters made completely out of raw ground beef. The game calls these creatures meat men, and they melt when they die. You also face agile martial arts monsters that look like plastic blue crash test dummies. Their leader is a giant figure named Dummy Man who wields an oversized metal wrench. You must dodge these creatures while solving simple puzzles across the burning campground. If you manage your clock correctly, you can find and rescue your friend Kevin. This first level acts as a brutal introduction to the game's trap mechanics. It forces you to look closely at every single bench, tree, and fence. The second attraction shifts the aesthetic gears completely into the realm of creature features. This level is titled The Revenge of Queen Worm, and it parodies desert monster movies. The entire visual design feels like a direct love letter to the movie Tremors. You find yourself exploring an abandoned campground built on top of dark, sandy soil. The game introduces a highly creative auditory mechanic specifically for this sandy environment. If your chosen teenager walks on the dark dirt, giant underground worms hear you. They will immediately burst out of the ground to bite your character's legs. To stay safe, you must carefully walk along narrow paths made of flat rocks. The story follows the sad ghost of a lonely worm farmer named David. He begs you to help kill his giant, prized breeding worm named Rachel. Rachel has grown completely out of control and now eats the park visitors. The level feels incredibly wide, open and empty compared to the first cabin level. The bright desert sun beats down on your character, creating a sense of isolation. You must manage your regular running speed to avoid making too much acoustic noise. If you search the camp quickly, you can find and save your friend Michelle. The final boss fight against Rachel the Worm requires careful timing and positioning. After surviving the hot desert sand, you enter the third movie, titled Wood Puppets. This attraction takes you deep into a creepy, haunted lumber mill environment. The cinematic influence here blends classic folk horror with traditional teenage slasher film tropes. An ancient, vindictive tree spirit named Trent has become incredibly angry at local humans. He brutally murders a local lumberjack and chainsaw enthusiast named George McLachlan. Trent then takes complete control of the mill and its industrial wood machines. He transforms all the human factory workers into creepy, silent wooden mannequins. These mannequins wander the dark mill floors holding sharp axes and whirring chainsaws. The visual atmosphere is incredibly dark, damp, and filled with industrial fog effects. The soundtrack uses heavy, mechanical grinding noises to build a sense of industrial dread. You must explore the multi-level factory while avoiding hidden blades and falling wooden logs. This stage features one of the most famous and dark jokes in the game. You can find your missing friend Randy trapped inside one of the machines. If you do not find his missing physical brain first, he survives as brainless Randy. He becomes a permanent playable character who literally has zero thoughts in his head. This bizarre narrative choice perfectly illustrates the game's dark, uncompromising sense of humor. The fourth attraction brings the horror much closer to modern society and retail life. It is called the Killer Department Store, and it targets the concept of consumerism. The level takes place inside the ruined, dark remains of the Cashman department store. The ghost of the greedy original store owner, Donald Cashman, haunts the aisles. He has brought all the regular store merchandise to life using dark magic. You must walk through aisles filled with possessed clothes, dangerous shoes, and floating items. The traps in this level are incredibly funny, but still highly dangerous to you. A simple birthday cake can suddenly grow giant teeth and try to eat you. The visual design uses bright, gaudy store lighting mixed with deep, dark shadows. It feels like a twisted version of a late-night shopping mall commercial from television. You face strange enemies like giant, walking pieces of raw meat named chicken, pork, and beef. The final boss fight pits you against Donald Cashman inside a strange digital dimension. He transforms himself into a giant golden spider monster made entirely out of cash. To defeat him, you must steal his remote controls and trick him into walls. This level acts as a brilliant, sharp parody of corporate greed and modern shopping culture. The fifth attraction changes the pace completely by mimicking a gritty crime thriller movie. The level is titled Killerman, and it takes place in a dark city. The environment looks like a broken down, decaying urban alleyway filled with cold rain. The park designers want you to solve a classic, dark Hollywood murder mystery. You must search the garbage cans and dark doorways to find hidden written clues. The atmosphere feels incredibly heavy, slow, and genuinely depressing compared to the earlier stages. The game introduces real, slow-moving zombies that wander the wet asphalt streets. These city zombies are completely unique because they are totally immune to your weapons. You cannot kill them, so you must carefully sneak past their cold sight lines. A mysterious figure named Killerman stalks you from the dark shadows of the alleys. He wears a long trench coat and a creepy, smooth, white plastic mask. The level plays with your internal paranoia by constantly turning off the streetlights. You must rely heavily on your horror monitor to spot his sudden, deadly traps. If you explore the dark city successfully, you can rescue your friend Jorg. This stage proves that the game can create genuine, deep tension when it wants to. The sixth and final regular attraction is widely considered the absolute peak of the game. It is titled Toy Hunter. Cork Goes to Hell, and it takes place in a palace. You do not play as your regular human teenagers during this special level. Instead, you control a brave plastic cowboy action figure named Cork Inder. Cork is a hilarious, obvious parody of Woody from Toy Story and Indiana Jones. He wears a brown fedora hat, carries a little gun, and has a beard. The story begins inside the regular toy box of a young boy named Henry. Tragically, young Henry gets very sick and dies during the night. The parents place Cork's beautiful plastic girlfriend, Sexy Doll, inside the boy's wooden coffin. A giant, demonic monster suddenly drops from the dark sky to steal her soul. This monster drags her down into the fiery depths of the kingdom of toy hell. Cork draws his plastic pistol and bravely jumps into the grave to save her. The environment shifts into a surreal landscape filled with red lava and burning toys. You must guide Cork through platforming challenges while fighting evil plastic eggs. The stage looks completely distinct from any other horror game ever made before. The ultimate boss of this fiery toy underworld is a creature named Zodik the Hellhog. Zodik is a massive, demonic parody of Sega's own famous mascot, Sonic the Hedgehog. He is bright blue, possesses sharp spikes, and stands on two giant legs. He attacks Cork by rolling into a fastball and doing a spin dash. When Cork shoots him with his gun, Zodik discharges golden metallic nut rings. Cork must quickly destroy these rings to lower the monster's overall health bar. Zodik even performs Sonic's classic sassy finger-wagging pose during the actual battle. When you finally defeat this blue demon, the game pulls back its narrative curtain. Zodik suddenly breaks down and reveals he is just a giant mechanical theme park animatronic. The camera cuts away to show two regular park employees sitting in a control room. They are arguing about the difficulty settings of the robot you just fought. One of these regular blue-collar workers is voiced by actor Ryan Drummond. Drummond was the official voice actor for Sonic the Hedgehog in the real world. This incredible layer of meta-humor shows how brilliant the writing team truly was. They used their game to openly mock the very company that was funding their project. By breaking down these 6 distinct movies, we see the true genius of Illbleed's architecture. The game refuses to let the player ever feel comfortable or safe in one spot. Just when you think you understand the rules, the setting shifts entirely. You go from a slasher camp to a desert, then to a toy heaven. This constant shifting keeps your brain active and prevents the gameplay from getting boring. It treats the history of horror cinema like a giant, fun playground to explore. Every single attraction serves as a separate monument to the joy of low-budget filmmaking. Nishigaki understood that variety is the absolute spice of a great interactive experience. He built a digital theme park that remains completely unmatched in its sheer variety. It stands as a masterclass in diverse level design and creative narrative parodies. Chapter 4: The Scream Queen. Eriko Christie is not like other video game heroes from the golden age of horror. She does not wear a heavy, tactical military uniform like the stars of Resident Evil. She does not carry a cool police badge or possess advanced combat training from the government. Instead, she is just a normal high school teenager with bright, colorful purple hair. She spends her free time acting as the proud president of her school horror club. Most games from this era feature main characters who react to monsters with total shock. They scream in terror when a creature bursts through a window or jumps from shadows. They represent the player's own natural fear when exploring a dark, dangerous digital environment. Eriko breaks this traditional rule completely because she possesses a very strange psychological trait. She is a young girl who is literally impossible to scare with normal tricks. This unique trait is not a magical superpower or a weird genetic mutation. It is the direct result of deep childhood trauma caused by her own family. Her father was a professional special effects artist who worked on low-budget horror movies. He did not leave his terrifying work at his movie studio when the day ended. Instead, he brought his horrific creations home to use as twisted learning tools. He spent years trying to find a way to make his young daughter scream. He hid fake bloody severed heads inside the family refrigerator next to the milk. He rigged the dark hallway closets with loud jumping mechanical skeletons that shook violently. He would dress up in grotesque rubber monster masks just to scare her at dinner. Every single day of her childhood was a stressful exercise in surviving sudden frights. Her home was not a safe place of peace, comfort, and quiet rest. It was a testing ground for cheap cinema tricks designed to trigger pure panic. Eventually, something inside the young girl's mind snapped and changed her perception forever. She stopped crying out in terror whenever a fake monster jumped out at her. She began to look past the scary appearance of the props around her room. She started to notice the thin strings holding up the plastic floating ghosts. She saw the cheap red paint used to mimic real flowing human blood. She learned exactly how these illusions were manufactured by adult creators for profit. By understanding the technical craft of horror, she completely destroyed its emotional power over her. Fear requires a person to believe in the reality of the danger before them. Eriko lost that belief before she even finished her elementary school education. She became a cold, cynical critic who viewed horror as a simple, mechanical puzzle. This backstory explains why she initially refuses to visit the grand opening of Illbleed. She assumes the expensive park is just another collection of cheap, predictable tricks. When you select Eriko on the character screen, this complex psychology changes your gameplay experience. Her internal stats reflect her unique immunity to the frights of the amusement park. Her baseline heart rate is incredibly stable compared to the other playable characters. When a trap explodes next to her, her pulse does not spike dangerously high. She possesses a natural mental shield that protects her digital body from sudden shock. This mechanical advantage makes her the absolute safest choice for exploring new, unknown areas. However, her immunity to fear does not make her completely invulnerable to physical harm. The traps inside this specific amusement park are designed to draw real human blood. A plastic blade will still cut her skin even if she expects the attack. She can still bleed out and die if you fail to disarm the traps. The game creates a fascinating contrast between her mental strength and her physical fragility. She cannot be frightened to death, but she can easily be broken by iron. Her three best friends represent the exact opposite side of this psychological coin. Kevin, Michelle, and Randy are typical teenagers who enjoy watching scary movies for fun. They do not understand the hidden machinery or the dark psychology behind the genre. They see the billionaire's grand challenge as an easy way to win quick riches. They are driven entirely by youthful greed and a desire for social status. They enter the glowing neon gates of the park with total arrogant confidence. They quickly discover that their normal teenage bravado is completely useless against real sadism. They lack the cynical mind needed to spot the hidden triggers in the rooms. One by one, they fall victim to the traps and get captured by monsters. Their regular human fear becomes a weapon that the park uses to destroy them. When Eriko enters the park to rescue them, she finds them physically transformed by terror. They have been broken down by the environment and turned into living props. This setup transforms the entire game into an ideological battle between two specific minds. On one side is Michael Reynolds, a wealthy billionaire who worships the concept of fear. He believes that every human being can be broken if you build the right trap. He views his massive park as the ultimate artistic statement of his personal power. On the other side is Eriko, who refuses to give him the satisfaction. She walks through his expensive attractions with a look of pure, bored annoyance. As you progress through the stages, the conflict feels deeply personal rather than purely accidental. Reynolds starts to feel like a dark, corporate echo of Eriko's own missing father. Both men are older authority figures, obsessed with controlling spaces to terrify young people. They use their creative talents to build elaborate illusions that inflict real emotional stress. Eriko must confront this toxic male ego to save the people she cares about. She is not just surviving a park, she is conquering her own past. The spatial design of the attractions enhances this deep psychological theme as you play. Each room feels like a physical manifestation of a different childhood nightmare she endured. The burning cabins remind the player of unsafe domestic spaces where danger hides in corners. The dark department store reflects the hollow commercial nature of the horror industry itself. Eriko moves through these spaces like a professional inspector checking a broken factory floor. Her dialogue during cutscenes is filled with sharp, sarcastic remarks about the cheap production. This cynical attitude provides a brilliant layer of meta-commentary for the entire survival horror genre. In the early 2000s, games relied heavily on predictable tropes to frighten players. They used loud noises, sudden camera shifts, and dark rooms to create tension. By making the main character immune to these tricks, the game mocks its competitors. It forces the player to acknowledge the sheer silliness of traditional video game scares. It asks you to think like a designer rather than a helpless victim. Over the years, early internet gaming forums filled with fascinating urban legends about Eriko. Some players noticed strange, unexplained details in her character model during specific late-game stages. A popular rumor claimed that her eyes would occasionally flash red in dark corridors. Fans whispered that she was secretly the real daughter of the evil billionaire creator. Others believed she was already dead, operating as a ghost inside a simulated reality. These myths grew because the game's atmosphere felt so dreamlike, confusing, and deeply surreal. The developers never explicitly confirmed these wild fan theories in any official media guides. However, the secret true ending of the game adds massive fuel to this psychological fire. If you manage to save all your friends and complete the bonus boss battle, a twist occurs. Eriko stands victorious outside the burning remains of the ruined theme park attraction gates. She has proven her total mental superiority over the billionaire's ultimate lethal creation. Suddenly, she receives a mysterious package containing a brand new ticket to a second park. The final frame of the game shows her face shifting into a dark expression. She realizes that the cycle of torment will never truly end for her character. The horror industry will always build a bigger, meaner monster to chase her down. Her immunity to fear has transformed her into the ultimate permanent target for creators. She is trapped forever in a loop of surviving things that should kill her. This dark conclusion elevates her story from a silly B-movie plot to a tragedy. Looking closely at this character design reveals the true artistic masterpiece hidden within the software. The developers did not just create a cool protagonist with a neat visual style. They built a complete psychological framework that unifies the story, mechanics, and theme perfectly. Eriko Christie remains one of the most brilliant and underappreciated characters in gaming history. She represents the ultimate scream queen who refuses to scream for the camera's cheap delight. Her silent defiance in the face of absolute madness is what makes the game unforgettable. Chapter 5: The Cult of Illbleed. When the Sega Dreamcast finally turned off its lights, Illbleed vanished into the dark shadows. Retail stores threw the bright plastic game cases into cheap clearance bins for a few dollars. Most casual players completely ignored the strange title with the messy, violent cover art. The gaming world was rapidly moving forward into the glossy era of the PlayStation 2. For a short time, it seemed like Shinya Nishigaki's wildest vision would be forgotten forever. Then, a very strange thing began to happen across the early digital landscape. Small groups of curious players started talking to each other on primitive internet message boards. Websites like GameFAQs and early gaming forums became digital meeting grounds for a new kind of community. These players did not want to discuss the massive popular mainstream blockbusters of the day. They wanted to share their completely baffling experiences with a hidden, broken Dreamcast nightmare. They wrote long, detailed text posts describing giant killer tomatoes and possessed department store cakes. Other users assumed these strange descriptions were just elaborate fabrications or online jokes. You could not easily open YouTube in 2001 to watch a quick gameplay video. You could not scroll through high-definition streaming clips to verify a weird rumor. The only way to see the truth was to find a rare physical copy. This digital scarcity created an incredible atmosphere of deep mystery around the game. Early internet forums became filled with wild urban legends about the game's hidden code. Players whispered about a secret seventh movie attraction hidden deep within the park's files. Some claimed you could rescue a secret fifth friend who wore a monster mask. Others swore that leaving your character in a dark room caused real glitches. These rumors spread quickly because the game itself felt so incredibly unstable and dreamlike. The bizarre voice acting and sudden transitions made players believe anything was truly possible. People spent hours trying to decode the true meaning of the game's final scene. They argued about the identity of the billionaire creator and his strange corporate backers. The community was treating the game like a secret puzzle box that required solving. This intense grassroots fascination marks the true birth of the game's massive cult status. It was a game kept alive entirely by the passionate words of internet strangers. They recognized the brilliant artistic value of a project that mainstream critics had completely dismissed. The text guides written during this era read like survival manuals passed between real soldiers. Authors had to map out every hidden trap using simple typed text coordinates. They told readers exactly how many steps to take before turning a dark corner. They catalogued the tiny visual tells that gave away the locations of the traps. A slight tremor in a floorboard or a faint hum from a wall became vital clues. This collective effort transformed the game into a shared cultural mystery for the early web. Behind the scenes, the real-world story of the developers was taking a sad turn. The financial failure of the Dreamcast left Crazy Games without a stable financial home. In the cold winter of December 2002, the unique development studio officially dissolved forever. However, Shinya Nishigaki refused to give up on his bold dreams for interactive horror. He gathered his core staff members and moved to a Japanese studio named Caviar. There, he began working on an unannounced project designed specifically for the Japanese market. At the exact same time, a company named CoolNet Entertainment saw potential in his old works. They began developing advanced ports of both Blue Stinger and Illbleed for the Microsoft Xbox. The developers wanted to upgrade the graphics and add brand new gameplay elements. Reports from gaming magazines claimed the Xbox version of Illbleed was 90% complete. Fans were incredibly excited to finally play a polished version of the underground classic. The new console hardware would allow the game to run smoothly without mechanical slowdowns. It seemed like the game was finally going to get a second chance at success. The team at CoolNet wanted to fix the clunky combat that critics had hated so much. Then tragedy struck the gaming community in a sudden and deeply shocking way. On February 14, 2004, Shinya Nishigaki passed away suddenly at a far too young age. The official medical reports stated that the brilliant designer died from a sudden heart attack. When the news reached the internet message boards, a heavy silence fell over fans. The online community noticed an eerie, haunting parallel that sent chills down their spines. The core gameplay mechanic of Illbleed was literally about surviving sudden, fatal heart attacks. Nishigaki had spent years designing an intricate simulation of a failing, terrified human heart. Now, that exact physical ailment had claimed his own life in the real world. The dark coincidence felt like something pulled straight from one of his own horror scripts. Some fans began spinning wild, speculative urban legends about his sudden, tragic passing. They whispered that the stress of creating his nightmarish art had broken his health. Others claimed he had discovered a hidden truth about human fear during his research. These myths were born from a place of deep grief and artistic awe. The gaming world had lost a true, uncompromising visionary before his time. The project he was working on at Caviar remained permanently unfinished and abandoned. Following Nishigaki's sudden death, the advanced Xbox ports were immediately shelved and cancelled forever. The nearly completed game files vanished into the dusty archives of unfinished software history. The original Sega Dreamcast version was now the only surviving testament to his dream. Because the console was dead, no new copies of the game were being manufactured. The physical white GD-ROM discs became incredibly rare and highly sought after by collectors. Prices for a complete copy began to skyrocket on online auction websites like eBay. Owning a physical copy became a badge of honor for serious retro historians. The difficulty of acquiring the game only added to its legendary underground reputation. It became a holy grail for fans of experimental horror and strange art. As the years marched on, the internet entered the modern era of video sharing. New generations of gamers discovered the game through retrospective videos and funny live streams. They watched modern commentators scream and laugh at the over-the-top B-movie acting. Yet underneath the initial laughter, these new players noticed something very surprising. They realized the mechanical design of the game was actually incredibly smart. They saw that the game was playing with complex ideas about human tension and player focus. Today, modern game designers look back at Illbleed with a sense of profound respect. They see a game that was completely ahead of its time in every way. The concept of a horror game where you must manage your senses is common now. Modern survival titles use complex resource management and psychological tension to frighten players today. Nishigaki understood these deep design concepts 25 years before they became mainstream trends. He realized that giving the player total power completely ruins the feeling of true terror. By making the environment a trap-filled puzzle, he changed how players interact with virtual spaces. The game's sharp parody of corporate greed also feels incredibly relevant in modern times. We live in an era of massive, expensive amusement parks and highly commercialized horror franchises. The billionaire Michael Reynolds represents the ultimate extreme extension of real-world corporate capitalism. He turns human suffering into a profitable entertainment product for a distant audience. Erika Christie's cold, cynical resistance is the ultimate rebellion against this corporate machinery. She refuses to become a passive consumer of his manufactured, expensive terror. She treats the entire corporate death trap like a poorly made amusement ride. This ideological struggle gives the game a brilliant depth that standard horror stories completely lack. When we look at the complete history of Illbleed, we see a true tragic masterpiece. It is a game that suffered from terrible timing, poor marketing, and corporate failure. It was released on a dying console by a studio that was running out of money. Its brilliant creator was taken from the world just as his art was being understood. Yet, despite all these massive obstacles, the game refused to die in darkness. It survived through the pure passion of an underground community that refused to forget. It stands as a beautiful, glowing monument to the wild creativity of the Dreamcast era. It reminds us that video games can be more than safe, corporate commercial products. They can be wild, unhinged, and deeply personal expressions of an artist's unique mind. Shinya Nishigaki left the world a colorful, bloody gift that continues to fascinate players today. Every time a retro fan boots up the game, his wild vision lives again. The heart monitor beats, the neon lights flash, and the beautiful nightmare continues forever. It challenges us to look past the smooth graphics of modern games. It asks us to appreciate the raw, messy beauty of a true artistic experiment. The ghosts of Illbleed still linger in the code, waiting for the next brave visitor to step through the gates.